Imagine standing at the edge of a forest just before dawn. The world is quiet, except for the faint rustle of leaves and a few distant birds. Ahead of you, through the trees, a shape begins to emerge, something vast, symmetrical, and gleaming faintly in the mist. As the sun rises, the mist lifts, and the Palace of Versailles reveals itself like a mirage of order in a chaotic world. The air smells faintly of dew and wood smoke. Somewhere far inside, a bell tolls. In a few moments, hundreds of people will wake at once, each bound by a different duty, each linked to one another in the vast machinery of royal life. The story of Versailles is not only the story of kings and queens, it is the story of the countless hands that polished its mirrors, the tired feet that crossed its marble floors, the quiet voices that whispered instructions behind its golden doors. For more than a century, the palace was not just a home, but a living symbol of control, of beauty maintained by invisible labor, of order sustained by exhaustion. And in this journey, we will walk through its corridors, not as honored guests, but as those who kept it alive. So find a comfortable place to rest. Let your breathing slow, and imagine yourself stepping quietly into the long, echoing halls of Versailles, where time itself seems to move at the king's command. You wake before the first light touches the palace roof. The air in your small room is cold and still. The walls are bare stone, and your straw mattress has flattened after months of use. You sit up, bones stiff from sleep, and pull on your worn stockings. Outside your door, you can already hear movement, the soft shuffle of other servants beginning their day. You are one of more than 1,000 souls who keep Versailles breathing. Your title depends on your station, perhaps valet de chambre, or femme de service, or kitchen boy, but your reality is much the same. You serve. You exist in the shadows of splendor, moving through corridors where the smell of wax, wood polish, and perfume never quite leaves the air. Your first duty is silence. The nobles sleep in their apartments above, and no servant must disturb them before the appointed time. You light candles carefully, one by one, shielding the flame with your hand so that it does not sputter out in the draft. The faint glow spreads across the corridor, revealing the intricate paneling, the fine cracks in the gilded moldings, the dust that must be wiped away before anyone sees it. As you walk, the floors creak faintly beneath your steps. You know which planks to avoid. You know which doors to open without sound, which tapestries conceal passageways for servants to slip unseen through the walls. Versailles is full of these hidden arteries, narrow staircases, cold stone halls, and secret doors that allow work to happen without notice. The guests never see them. They are the palace's veins. Soon, the palace begins to stir. The first sounds of movement come from the kitchens far below. Fires are being lit, iron pots set on their hooks, and loaves of bread slid into massive ovens. The kitchen workers are already covered in soot and sweat before sunrise. You, too, will join the rhythm, soon fetching water, preparing cloths, arranging basins, whatever the morning requires. At 7, the lever du roi begins the king's rising. The air in the palace changes. Servants rush through the corridors, each one performing a practiced choreography. You are assigned to assist someone higher than you, perhaps, the valet, who will hand the king his robe, or the maid, who will prepare the queen's powder. You must move quickly, precisely, invisibly. In the king's bedchamber, the ritual unfolds like a ceremony. The curtains are drawn back. Courtiers stand in silence. One servant presents warm water for the king's hands. Another lays out his clothes. To hand him a shirt is a privilege. To stand too close is a risk. Every gesture is watched, every mistake remembered. And when the king is dressed and gone, your day continues. There are chamber pots to empty, carpets to beat, rooms to air. The palace is immense, more than 2,000 windows, 700 rooms, and endless corridors. You will walk miles today without ever stepping outside. The smell of the palace shifts with the hours. In the morning, wax and linen. By midday, cooking fat and perfume. In the evening, smoke and sweat. The air is heavy with life, with human presence that never truly leaves. You learn to breathe shallowly. You learn to move quietly through other people's grandeur. Meals are not for you. You eat when you can, whatever is left. A crust of bread, a scrap from the kitchens. Sometimes the nobles toss bits to their dogs, and the dogs leave crumbs for the servants. It is not cruelty. It is simply the order of things. Versailles is built on layers, gold on dust, beauty on fatigue. Outside, the gardens gleam. You catch glimpses of them through high windows, fountains, trimmed hedges, sunlight on the water. But you are rarely allowed to walk there. They are the king's stage, not yours. Instead, you spend your day in shadowed spaces, the galleries before they open, the halls when the nobles have gone, the endless stairs that link grandeur to labor. There are rules even for your posture. Never turn your back on a noble. Never speak unless spoken to. If you are a woman, lower your gaze. If you are a man, bow at the right distance. These gestures become instinct, like breathing. To forget them is to invite punishment or worse, ridicule. Sometimes, in the rare quiet of the evening, you pause. You stand at the edge of the hall of mirrors. After the candles are extinguished, the glass reflects 1,000 tiny flames fading into darkness. You see your reflection among them, small, tired, ordinary, and for a moment you wonder whether anyone will remember the work that keeps this place alive. You hear the echo of footsteps above. The nobles are still awake, attending another supper, another performance. You think of the dozens of servants still waiting in antechambers, holding trays, fetching cloaks, pretending not to exist. When you finally return to your narrow bed, the air smells of smoke and wax. You close your eyes, knowing that the next day will be the same, a repetition of perfection, an invisible devotion to the idea of splendor. At Versailles, beauty was a kind of labor. Every candle that burned, every mirror that gleamed, every breath of perfume, someone made it so. Someone like you. The palace wakes each morning not with the sound of a bell, but with the rhythm of one man's breath. The king's body is the clock of France. His rising marks the beginning of the day, his sleep its end. Everything that happens at Versailles, every conversation, every meal, every glance is drawn into the orbit of his existence. Louis XIV was born in 1638, and for the people of his time, his birth itself was a miracle. The royal couple had waited more than 20 years for an heir, and so the child was hailed as divine proof that heaven favored France. He grew up believing this, and he never truly stopped. You can imagine him as a young mantle, graceful, deliberate in every movement. He was not the strongest soldier, nor the most brilliant scholar, but he understood something deeper than either, the power of presence. When he looked at you, you felt that he saw not just who you were, but where you belonged in his world. When Louis became king, France was restless. The nobles were ambitious, the ministers clever, the people weary of war. But he had a grand and orderly image of himself at the center of a perfectly arranged universe. Versailles was built to make that vision visible. Its mirrors multiplied his light. Its gardens spread out like the rays of a sun. Each day followed a choreography of ritual. The lever du ROI, the King's Rising, began at 7:30. The first valet de chambre entered quietly to open the curtains. A few chosen courtiers were allowed to stand nearby as the king awoke. Gradually, more people entered, according to their rank. Some offered the shirt, others tied his garters, others stood only to watch. Each task was an honor measured in inches of proximity. Louis never moved quickly. His pace was deliberate, his gestures studied. Even the act of eating became a symbol of order. During the grand cavire, the king dined before an audience, surrounded by family and nobles. Music played softly. Servants moved in silence. To eat beside him was a privilege granted to very few.